welcome to the Money Matters EmpowerHer podcast, where we're redefining what financial independence looks like for women. I'm your host, Donna Cates, and each week we'll dive into powerful stories, expert strategies, and practical tools to help you take charge of your financial future. The women sharing their journeys here aren't just telling stories, they're change makers. Their experiences, strategies, and financial outlooks carry real power to inspire transformation in your own life. Whether you're planning for retirement, navigating a divorce, or simply looking to build your wealth with confidence, this is your space to grow, learn, and thrive. Let's get started with today's episode. Welcome today to Money Matters EmpowerHer, the podcast where we have honest, uplifting conversations that inspire women to rise in influence, navigate life's pivots with courage, and build wealth that reflects who they truly are. I'm your host, Donna Cates, financial strategist, wealth builder, and very proud advocate for women who are finding their voice and power at the financial table. So today's conversation is one that I know is deeply going to resonate with you. I'm joined by Danielle Sprouls, the powerhouse behind Unscripted Pivots, and it's a movement helping women turn those what the F
Bleep.
moments into women that flourish moments. And I
Yeah.
absolutely adore everything about that. So, after decades in commercial real estate and law, Danielle realized that success without fulfillment is just exhaustion in better shoes. I love
hmm
that too. That revelation led her to completely redefine what true success looks like and feels like. So she now blends executive coaching with radical honesty and humor,
hmm
teaching women that confidence isn't loud, it's aligned. So I'm
Yeah.
thrilled, Danielle, to have you today. Welcome to Money Matters Empower Hers.
Oh, thank you, Donna, for selecting me as a guest. I was enamored once I dove in, looked at your podcast, looked at the other women that you guest on here. I mean, you really have something very special going, and everything about your show and about your platform across the board just speaks to me. It speaks to my heart, it speaks to my journey. And so I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I do want to say, though, for everybody listening and everybody, because mostly they get it wrong, including Siri, the last name is Sproles, not Sprouls. Okay. The OU is always mispronounced. In fact, Siri does it. And if I call anybody on the phone, they'll say Danielle Sprouls calling, and I cannot change that.
You
So
cannot make it
I
fit.
can, my husband jokes with me all the time. He'll be like, he answers the phone when I call. He goes, "Hello, Danielle Sprouls." Okay. So it is Sproles. We're gonna roll with the Sproles today.
Rolls. Okay.
That's what we're doing. We're rolling with Sproles. All
I
right.
love the roll with Sproles. That's perfect. And thank you for that correction. I do appreciate that for sure. Well, let me tell you where I'd like to start, Danielle. I want to just hear, lead with the heart of it all. You've said that reinvention isn't failure, it's freedom. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. And I would love for you to tell us what inspired Unscripted Pivots and what drives your mission to help women rewrite their stories and step into alignment with who they truly are.
Well, I had the good fortune in being in business development, commercial title insurance for almost 25 years, and so I would be deployed to all these conferences. So I really, when I say I had the benefit, it was wonderful because I got to meet so many women along the way, and that's what incited me to start my own podcast called Unscripted Pivots. Now, mind you, Donna, this was like a hobby on the side. I'm out there doing business development. I'm working commercial, real estate. But I wanted to highlight the women that were telling me, like, how they got from there to here and all the pivots along the way. And I consider myself a bit of a pivot specialist too, having started out in law, then, morphed into full time mommyhood with the 4 kids for like 8 years, into commercial real estate, into now, keynote speaking, executive coaching. It's like, who am I? And, where did the plans go? Well, the plans don't necessarily get replaced. What they do is they get expanded as we do. And I love to work with women today to say, hey, I'm not helping you rewrite your story. I'm really more than anything helping you find your voice and a plan to amplify it. That's where I'm on a mission. When I had Unscripted Pivots, um, I wanted to talk to them about their curveballs. I'm always entertained by all of our curveballs, right? The plans that don't go the way we anticipate. Usually, more often than not, depending upon how we respond, Donna, they go better. Okay, but what do we do with the curveballs? So I called them, the WTF moments. But we're not going to say what the fuck Ghana on podcast. I'm tied to corporate America. I do not want to offend with language, but I wanted to start using acronyms. So Women That Flourish was born. That's how WTF became something other than WTF and became became Women That Flourish, which became over time, in a short time, a movement where everything started to be rebranded for WTF, which is what led to the book, WTF, Women That Flourish. And in that book, I talk about wake that flame, worth the fear, wisdom through failure, when transition fuels. We can WTF things all day long and take it from a moment of disruption to a moment of empowerment. And that's what I'm on a mission to do.
Oh, that is so exciting. And
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear more. And
Yeah.
I know that you've shared that losing your corporate title. I mean, you
Yeah.
had the corporate titles, a couple of those that you did the mommy thing for, and you're still mommying, but you
Yes.
had
Yeah.
your period out. So I'm curious to know what was happening in your life when you decided to pivot from that structured corporate environment and career to this soul-driven, purpose-centered work. And what have you learned about yourself during that transition and how that shapes helps shape women?
It's interesting because even before I made my own transition, I was coaching on that. But what this allowed me to do was experience firsthand in a much bigger way what it was that I was even coaching on. And so, what that looked like, I no longer really wanted to do what it was I was doing. It would the last stop on the bus was just like, well, this is a paycheck. And that wasn't enough. And I had helped over time people with all of their, transactions. Everything was very transactional in commercial real estate. And, it is fascinating. I wasn't bored by it. But really, what I was leaning in and moving towards was I went from transactions to transformation. I enjoyed
Mhm.
the most about those business deals was the transformations that were happening within those relationships. It's just really what was the biggest joy. And at some point, I decided that this is where I was going to put my life's work. I had had the good fortune of being certified in executive coaching years prior when I was enlisted by a commercial title insurance firm to do sales coaching. So I've always had the ability to execute this type of work. And, probably like you, Donna, over the years, we mentor a lot of people. Coaching is different than mentoring. It's almost like the next level up. And it's really more about that person and their journey and not you just imparting like where you've been and what you've done, right? So it's powerful stuff. I am blessed to do it. My legal background really helps me ask the right questions. Coaching is really about asking the right questions. So I've pretty much taken all the things that I have done or been exposed to and moved it into a different realm. And nothing brings me more joy than helping another woman honor her intuitive voice that is pulling her and she's fighting against because she doesn't know what it looks like on the other side. I have coached on it for a long time. I have lived it multiple times, and I am living it in a big way. So to leave corporate America and then hang my own shingle out, like, even like later in life, like how bold is that? When we began this podcast this morning, we had some tech issues, right? It's a little bit of a glip, and we laughed because we're like, oh, it's always tech. I will tell you that going out into my own world, having my own business, wow, where's the resources? Where's the marketing department? Where's the accounting department? Where's the tech help? You really have to put on, yeah, your big girl panties, man, when you're going to do that. But, today, what looks fundamentally different for me, Donna, is that I don't live in fear. I harness fear. I use it as fuel. I recognize it's always going to be part of the process, and that's okay. It's not a signal that something's wrong. It's only a signal that something's important. So,
Oh, I
I mean,
love
yeah,
that.
I have a whole chapter, WTF, worth the fear. We are going to experience that. I think it's gotten a bad rap, just like I think failure has gotten a bad rap. These things are not negative in and of themselves. It's what we assign to them that makes them a hardship more than an
Well,
opportunity. Yeah.
I will tell you, I'm very intrigued, and I'm definitely going to have to read your book.
Yes,
So,
you
and I
are.
encourage everybody else to snag a copy there,
Yeah.
and we'll get you to tell us how we can do that in just a
Hmm.
bit. So, I do know there's so much with what you just said that resonates with me because fear, if we're not feeling fear, we're not living. We're not
Yeah.
we're not
Hmm.
stretching and doing anything new. So, but yeah, we have to learn how to harness it and make it work for us rather than against us. And that's the thing is that women, I think we have a tendency just to kind of, ooh, that's too
Yeah.
scary and back up. But your coaching sounds like it blends strategy with that soul and honesty and maybe a little bit of humor here too.
Yeah.
And that's a great combination. But I'd love for you to share what's the one of the biggest truths that you've discovered about women as they're reclaiming their power, and how's that has shaped your approach to the leadership and the coaching that you're doing.
Well, women in particular usually are looking for outside validation. We want
Mhm.
confirmation that the direction we're going in or the decisions we're about to make are the right ones. And what I help women do is give themselves permission. Permission starts with yourself. It's not from anybody, place, or thing. Now, I do believe in leaning in for external wisdom so you can make an informed decision. But at the end of the day, it's self permission. Give yourself a permission slip to do that next thing. It's about trusting yourself. It's about
Mm.
the self-talk that you are practicing. What's living rent free in your head? So the career women that I coach, it looks more like they know they've either been holding back or they're moving forward and they're not moving forward at a pace maybe that they want to, and they know it's because they haven't amplified their voice or their presence, and they want some guidance as to how to strategize that plan. And that's where I come in, and I'm an accountability partner. And I live in Southern California now, and everything is all great. We a little bit more relaxed vibes here, but I'm an East Coast girl. I'm a Jersey girl. And I will tell you, I'm a no BS coach. Now, I will be your biggest supporter. But when we make that plan and we strategize how we're moving and what the timeline is, I will hold you accountable lovingly, but undecidedly so. And I think that that's what moves the needle, because we so often we create these systems, we create these boundaries and these plans, and then all of a sudden we're moving the envelope because it's not the right time. We don't feel as comfortable. I get into the messy middle with these women and I say, "You are not alone, and this is not as scary as you're making it. Let's go." And so I think that there's safety that's built in that relationship. There's an intimacy that forms. And I will tell you, I am more on fire with that than I ever was when I was insuring some large commercial real estate portfolio, right? So the work is so important to me, and I can see the impact that I'm having in another person's life. I have a chapter in the book. Every chapter in my book is a WTF. And one of the chapters is work toward fulfillment. And, a lot of us recognize where our soul has left that job. And more often than not, or the role within the company, we outgrow our jobs or our positions before they outgrow us. What does that look like? Right? It's a feeling. I help people name their feelings. I help them strategize how to get into a better place, because work toward fulfillment is real. I live it. I'm living proof of that. And is it an easy path? No. But it absolutely, Donna, is one not to be missed.
I can imagine. So, and I think what's going through my mind right now, Danielle,
Hmm.
as you're talking, is the fact that so many of us, we just get in our own way. We put up
Yeah.
our own roadblocks because of the fear or the doubt or the imposter syndrome or whatever it is that we're wearing that day. But it sounds like you're really helping women to stop apologizing for their
Yeah.
ambition and
Oh,
literally
ab-
recognizing it, right? This is what's
absolutely.
really there. And sometimes we have to have somebody else help us dig that out sometimes.
Hmm.
So, and it sounds like that's your specialty right there. And I can imagine part of the reward. Now, the business that you were doing before, the big transactions, that was important work. But
Hmm.
here you're working, face to face with another human being. And I would love to hear you tell me about when when they had that aha moment, when you've not told them an
Yeah.
answer, you've actually helped them figure it out themselves. But what's that aha moment like for you when a client has that
Oh, I mean
experience?
that's beyond rewarding, right? And there's more than one. There's more than one during the coaching process. I don't tell people what to do. What I help them do is look at whatever their toolkit looks like. Because, most of the people that I coach, they're pretty far along in their career. And I don't just coach individuals, I also coach teams. So the dynamics within the team. So that's very interesting work as well. I help them find what they've used before inside their toolkit and how to reintroduce how they can use it now. A lot of times we are more than capable or we've employed certain things that we can't access for whatever reason today. Maybe we were really great at it 3 years ago, and all of a sudden we don't know how to use it. So I help them become familiar with tools that they actually already own. And then if they're missing a couple, all right, let's start habit stacking, right? Because everything is about doing a little bit of contrary action so that you can kind of rewire your approach to something. And also get down to the nitty gritty, Donna. Most of the things where the missteps happen or the non-steps happen is really around procrastination, and which
Mm,
isn't the task itself as we know. It's really the emotions attached to the task. So okay, it's a little hysterical here, right? And when I say hysterical, we're overreacting or we're underreacting because of something. Let's neutralize the behavior. Let's look at where did it start or why is it there? Because a lot of times, Donna, it's not even about what's going on today. It is attached to something much deeper from way back, usually the childhood. And then that's the aha moments when I see a woman's eyes light up and she just got introduced to herself in a
mm,
new way, in a profound way that gives her back her power. Oh, I mean, just let's bottle up that feeling. There is nothing more rewarding than to walk somebody through that.
And that gave
Yeah.
me goosebumps just hearing you describe it. So that's
Yeah.
fabulous. Well, I know in my world, and we all have extremely full plates. There's just too much going on, and we're all trying to do too much.
Yeah.
There's a lot of noise out there around, I don't know, hustle culture, I think I would
Yeah.
call it,
Mhm.
leveling up.
Mhm.
But your approach seems to be grounded in something a little bit deeper, like alignment
Yeah.
versus achievement. And
Mhm.
I'd love to know, what do you see as the biggest mindset trap women fall into when they're trying to reinvent themselves?
Well, not everybody that I'm coaching is reinventing themselves, but
Okay.
when that happens, usually I'm walking them through what makes you think, Sally, Beth, Barbara, whoever it is, that that place, that way that you earned all your life in your job is the only way to earn? Everybody looks for evidence, right? But I've never done this way before, or I've never done that, or where I'm branching out. Well, okay. Are we starting new? No, you know what? We're not. We have all the accumulated skill sets that we were deploying and perfecting for the past how many years it was. And I help people see what their real value is when they're questioning it, because that, you know what, that's really what drives me to coach. Nothing, I find nothing more unsettling. I don't know if it's this, it's not that I come in as a hero, but I find it so unsettling when I see a woman in particular, because I coach both men and women, but when I see a woman questioning her self-worth, I want to just get over there with the flashlight, the red cape, and say, Excuse me, we are redressing you. We are shining the light that belongs on you, you queen." And I'm so uncomfortable when I see somebody underestimate themselves. Now, why would that be? I've been there, Donna. I know what that feels like. And guess what? I will know what that feels like again. None of us are bulletproof, because as you choose to grow, as you choose to live a life of curiosity, you're going to be compelled to be a beginner again. You
Mm,
will be outside your comfort zone. You will have to stretch. Stretching is uncomfortable. What my message is, invite the stretch, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Don't
Mm,
see it the same way you used to see it. It's like the whole thing with WTF. When you were saying WTF to yourself, you need not see it the way you always saw it or the way the universe, like we were taught what WTF is. This is something very, very different. And I'm a bit of an acronym nerd because it goes back to law school and how I studied for all the exams, right? Everything had to have an acronym so you can memorize it. So this is just the way my brain thinks. So I think in WTF all the time. My second book, which will be out in early 2026, so a few months away, is also an acronym. And it really is like not a spin-off of WTF, but I share this with you because we talked about pivots. You mentioned the word pivot in when you initially started this conversation. It's called Master the Pivot, but it's Master the Pivot, how bold leaders turn chaos into their competitive edge. Because
mm,
really, at the heart of my WTF book isn't the WTF moment. It's what you do with the WTF moment that defines you, right? That moment, that curveball, we're all getting them. Big, small, all ways, shapes, and sizes, right? It's guaranteed in life. That's not what defines you. How you respond to that. And so the second book goes into pivot in a more like a business framework. And I'm putting forth a framework where pivot is an acronym. So the joy of putting all of this stuff out, I know that you recently released a book. There is something, I gave birth to four kids, and that was like the highlight of my life, and it will always be. A close second, Donna, is giving birth to a book. All
mhm,
that goes into the writing of that journey is almost like, for me, mirrors the gestational period of growing a human inside me, because I'm growing a story and I want to be really helpful about what I am putting out. Like, how is this being of service to anybody? So, and then you start questioning it. And then is it perfect? All these things that go beyond your control. It's another opportunity to say, let go, let the universe, do its work. Because I'll tell you, when WTF was released, and then I started being interviewed on it and asked to do presentations, I was very fortunate. It's doing really well. I don't know if you experienced this, Donna, great difficulty looking at the book after it was published without a critical eye. I would pick it up and say, okay, get familiar with this, whether it was a certain chapter I knew people would want to focus in on because of whatever their work they were doing. And I was like, why'd I write it like that? Why'd I say this? It took me a couple of weeks to step back and coach myself through. You're going to read this because this was ready the way it was ready, and there's nothing wrong with it. Like, how dare you? So, my point is, we slip back into it, we evolve and we grow, and then we're making the same mistake. What I do is I come out of those mistakes quicker today. I have sharpened my tools that when I, as a human being, start to allow my character defects to surface, whether it's, at negative self-talk or
mm,
envy. Oh, look how far that person got, and I'm never gonna. All that crazy noise. I can reset quicker today, and that's what I help my clients do. Reset quicker. You're gonna visit some negative, whatever habits, talk. You don't need to live there. You know that old saying: if you're going through hell, don't build a condo. Okay? There's a saying. I don't know who said it, but I remind myself, keep going. This is not your
It's not
destination.
camping out, right? Well, and I will tell you that that resonates with me so
Yeah.
deeply because I was actually working with a woman recently and was
Mm,
sharing with her that I have this automatic negative thinking,
mm-hmm.
and I'm working very diligently to replace
Yeah.
that, to number one, recognize it when it's happening, when I have that negative thought,
Yeah.
and saying, "Ooh, there that goes again," and then literally replacing it with something positive that's going to serve me. And it's,
Yeah.
it is, it's something that you have to practice at. And I'm a
Absolutely.
long way from being perfect. And as soon as I master it, I'm sure there'll be another something that I need to learn. So we need to be coachable, and we need to be open to making those changes. Well, I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you another question because this resonated with me when you introduced yourself to me.
Mm,
I'm not a BSer. I'm
Good.
a straight cut shoot. I mean, straight shoot to the answers or what have you.
I love
But
that.
one of the things that I love about what you're doing and what you say is that I don't sugarcoat, I spotlight. So
Yeah.
I would love to know that how this shows up in your coaching and how
Hmm.
you balance that truth telling with compassion when you're guiding somebody through their
Yeah.
process so that they're not just like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have to keep myself in check because I am very fast paced. Having worked, being an East Coast girl in New Jersey and then working in New York for a couple decades, everything was quick, 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 right? And a lot of times I will see what I perceive to be the issue when I'm coaching somebody, but this is not about me telling them. This is about them discovering it. So
right,
you have to slow it down. And that takes some energy on my part. And this is where I get to really practice my skills. I'm not going to tell you I always do it perfectly. There's an emotional tie to what's happening, especially when somebody's putting themselves down or they don't see their value. But I have to allow the process to take footing. I believe not in sugarcoating because I don't want to just be that rah rah cheerleader. They've got some besties that will echo things to them that they want to hear. I am not present for that. But I'm not here to criticize. I'm here to strategize. I spotlight what I identify as the weaknesses in whatever plan they're doing and why it's not working, and then work towards solution. It's always about solution. At the end of the day, and you may experience this too, Donna, what we're really doing is we're coaching ourselves out of a job, out of a relationship. I am not meant to be there present all the time. I'm just there to strengthen them so they can get to the next phase of their journey. Now, if they want to revisit later on because they've got something else going on, yes, open arms, come back. You'll always be family. It is such a beautiful thing to do. I will tell you what I wasn't prepared for when I did this work, like I took this on full time because I'd been doing it on the side for years before I started to do it all the time is the attachment that I would feel to the
mm,
humans. It's almost like I don't want to say raising children, but there's something so beautiful in investing something in somebody and watching them go from like, maybe instability to stability to soaring. And then they leave the nest. And so there is a surprising component to this type of work where I on a very small scale, experience empty nest syndrome. Like it's like, oh,
yeah,
okay, you know, but what that tells me is that if it feels a little bit like a loss, that means it was worth doing. It was worth doing. I mean, that, I'm grateful to actually experience it, even though it's uncomfortable, which just gets me back to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. See the value in it. It's not a bad thing. Sometimes it's bittersweet, but really at its core, the foundation is joy. It's joy.
mm,
Even when you're stretching yourself, proof positive that you're capable and that you're developing self trust. That's one of the things that I work closely, especially with women. What tends to happen is they'll make these plans and they'll make these micro shifts. And then all of a sudden, they're moving the envelope, they're changing the boundaries, and they are allowing the outside world, which we have to pivot. So that's sometimes, a plan that has to be reworked. But mostly, I'm like, are you honoring your voice, your plan? And when you do, we develop a self trust, which spills across all of our relationships, not just our job, because we know that when we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it. And do you know how uplifting that is for our soul, for our own internal vibe? And with that, confidence grows. And when confidence grows, competence grows. All of this feeds into itself. So it's really, really powerful. But I don't sugarcoat what I see to be the crutch that they may be leaning on. I put a spotlight on it. But what I always show at every turn is that these things are not impossible to address. We're just going to do it together. And there's a lot of comfort in not doing something by yourself. So,
mm. It sounds so empowering, and I love everything that you're doing. So I know you're basically creating a movement here with your unscripted pivots, a book
mm,
series, not just a book, but a series, podcast,
yeah.
and a platform that's redefining, what reinvention and coaching looks like. So, where do you see this movement that you're creating heading in the next 5 to 10 years? And what kind of legacy are you hoping to leave for the next generation of women who are ready to rise?
Okay, so the podcast that started this entire thing, which ended up being the name of my company, which was it's been on hiatus for a year now. I put that on hiatus for two reasons. One, I was getting a lot of demand from men to want to participate on the podcast. And I felt like, wow, am I being a little like narrow in thinking? I love things just for women, but maybe this should be a broader platform.
Mhm.
So I put it on hiatus because what would that rebranding look like? And I want it to be more of a talk show. I want it to be bolder now that I'm not tied to corporate America. I want to be surprised in the conversations themselves because why not? Should I be entertained as well, right? So I want it to be less interviewing one on one and more of a conversation. So Unscripted Pivots will come back. So that is part of like, the legacy plan, but it will look a little bit different and it will be inclusive of men. Always women come first. That's just, I am one and I love us best. Sorry, guys. That's the truth. Um, as far as the coaching goes, what I envision for um, my company is to grow it so that there's other coaches that can be chosen. It is small of me to think that it'll be Danielle party of one because I need to be replaceable after I'm no longer here. But I also want to, during the course of its growth, give options to people. Maybe sometimes those options are going to be because the budget fits better. Right. Sometimes it's going to be because the skill set is more concentrated on an area that they're struggling with. Like for instance, you are a finance guru. The things that you offer your clients, I do not. I do not go in and fix companies and their budgets and look at things like that. I mean, I did write a whole chapter WTF in the book called Women Thriving Financially, and I don't give advice. I impart some wisdom that, I experienced or what I've been exposed to, but I am not the finance guru. So I would like to have a finance coach in my company. I want to have one that's more maybe, I don't know, I don't want to say woo woo because that sounds disrespectful, but maybe somebody who leans more into the spiritual guidance, who, I don't know, is doing things like around more meditative practices. I believe coaching across the board is valuable. And I think there's more than one way to do it. And I don't profess to do it all so well that I would be the coach you'd hire for that pocket. So I want to grow Unscripted Pivots into a much larger platform where people have choice and we have diversity because I think the world should be diverse. I think that everything should be celebrated and seen and available. So I'll move into that. The upcoming book is more of a corporate book probably than WTF, although it's very personal in nature, and really about the relationship of a CEO founder and his downfall in leadership and the coach that transforms him. So there's a little bit of me in there. And I chose her name. I'll share this much. The coach's name is Helen, and that's the name of my grandmother and my mom. So there's a lot of things that are tied into that are personal to me, even though I am not really necessarily being showcased, right? But we speak from experience. And I think that's when our work and through our books, they shine and they reach the people they should reach. I don't know that I'll ever get famous over any of the things that I put out there. I don't think that's the point. If it happens, I'll celebrate it from here till tomorrow and then the day after. But that's not really why these things were written. I'm just an ordinary person, hopefully doing extraordinary things. And who finds it, the universe will decide.
I love it. Well, I can say you're doing extraordinary things just from the little bit that I've learned about you. Well, Danielle, you've been a fabulous guest, and thank you for this powerful conversation. You've reminded us that, whether we're reinventing ourselves or just figuring out our next steps, it's never about starting over. It's about being wiser, with more clarity and confidence than before. So,
Mhm.
for those that are listening and are ready to turn their own what the F moments into women that flourish moments, how can they connect with you? What's the best way to find you and tell them how to get the books too?
I would say, Donna, the best way to find me is on my website, unscriptedpivots.com. If you
Okay.
go there, you'll see like every tab from how to get the book, what the coaching, journey looks like with me, all the things, how to connect with me on Instagram, LinkedIn, all the different links. I exist on a lot of platforms. I'm not going to tell you that I'm dominating all of them. I just exist. You can find me on YouTube because when the podcast was alive, that's where it was part. And so there's a lot of ways to find out more about me. Start with my website, unscriptedpivots.com. I will tell you, if you choose to email me, that would be Danielle, Danielle, at unscriptedpivots.com. And if you mention Donna's podcast, I will have a gift for you. Okay. I'm not going to say what that gift is, but you're going to get one if you email me. Okay. Wink, wink. And Donna's on YouTube. So make sure you look at the podcast and you like it. Every like and every comment that you leave for Donna helps grow her platform. And this is so important. So if you are listening, you've given us your valuable time. Please think about sharing the love and like her podcast. Leave a comment. These accolades help to reach other people that Donna's working so hard to do. So
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And y'all do go check out her website. Precious woman you are. And you're so confident. And I love that confidence isn't loud. It's about being in alignment. That's one of the
yes.
things that you've said that really resonated with me. So we don't have to be loud. We don't have to be
Yeah.
any of those things. But well, ladies, until next time, keep rising, keep building, and keep believing in your power. I'm Donna Cates, and this has been the Money Matters Empower Her podcast. Until next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Money Matters Empower Her podcast. I hope today's conversation left you feeling inspired, informed, and ready to take the next step in your financial journey. Remember, building wealth isn't just about money, it's about creating a life that aligns with your goals and values. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with the women in your life who deserve financial empowerment too. Until next time, stay confident, stay empowered, and keep building the life you want.